Well, welcome. It's the Greg and Leisa Show,
I'm Greg.
and I'm Lisa, and we have a special guest with us today, and her name is
Jennifer.
What we're talking about today is generational family businesses and legacies, which is about growing up in a family business and seeing what the offshoots are and how it impacts the family and the desire to continue to be in your own business. But today we're going to talk about a lot of times when you grow up in your own business that kids don't always want to go in their own business, and they don't want anything to do with the family business. They develop a distaste for it, but then sometimes in the end they come back to the family business after they've gone out and tried to work with other people, or maybe tried their own business and then came back to the family business. So Jennifer, does any of that sound like familiar to you?
Very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you could think of one thing that I've always taught you, because we have been in our own family business for 30 years, at least I have, but you grew up in it. So, what's one of the things I often told you?
To go work for somebody else and collect a paycheck every 2 weeks.
That's right.
Hey, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
She drilled that in quite a bit. Go work for somebody else and have a paycheck.
And honestly,
every 2
family
weeks.
businesses are good, but that's rarely ever bad advice. It's,
Yeah. Well, because people think when you're in your own business, you can do what you want, when you want, how you want, and you're just rolling in the dough. And they don't look at you're usually the last to get paid. You're on 24/7. You don't get paid vacations. You don't get paid time off. You don't have a
Yeah.
lot of things when you're in your own business. So that's why I tell people enjoy life, go work for somebody else, do a good job, get a retirement, and have fun. But so, one of the things I want to talk to you a little bit about, and I want you to share, Jennifer, is what are some of your business travels?
Oh, there's been a lot. So for the culinary arts side, I started when I was 15 as a chicken breader for Hopkins Gardens. I've worked with pretty much anything fast food, catering. I own my own storefront bakery before I helped open a cafe in 2020. So I've pretty much been culinary arts other than when I've worked for you my entire life. So
Yeah. So, in your storefront bakery, what else did you do besides cakes and cookies and baking?
we did candy. And because I went back to school, I did fruit and vegetable carvings and some ice carvings and stuff out of there.
Okay. So, Greg, so you have experienced some of Jennifer's business travels, and as a spouse, share some of your ideas on what it's like to be involved with family-owned businesses.
well, yeah. I mean, when you have a spouse that travels, you got to get used to doing all the stuff yourself for days or a week. All the stuff with the kids, all the appointments, figuring out how to be alone, which when you've been married a while, that's a difficult thing to do sometimes because when those kids are in school, you're just there.
Yeah. And it makes a difference. And I always said if you were ever going to go in your own business, it takes at least one of you in the marriage or the relationship to be working and have a full time job.
Yep.
Because when you are in your own business, sometimes you never know when you're going to get paid. When who's good, and especially if you're relying on somebody to walk in your door and buy your product, or even if you're invoicing a client for a service provided, you don't know when they're always going to
Right.
pay you. So it makes a difference.
And the stuff I said, it's not necessarily bad. It's just you all
Mhm.
have to be on the same page in your
Right.
family when you do that.
Right.
So I had the Twisted Treat storefront when Greg and I met. So there were times where he had just worked his full day at work and was coming into town because he lived in North Royalton at the time. I would put him to work for a couple hours before we would go out and do something, and I think he's delivered a few cupcake orders and different things.
I've done one or two things like that. I mean, mostly you just have me, packaging stuff and things of that nature. Not really. Don't worry, I wasn't in the baking. Everybody. I'm a whiz at the crock pot. I can't be beat at that. That's a different animal.
Greg, you've also started at your own business, hoping to be a legacy business to pass on maybe to some of your kids. So what do you think about that?
Well, shameless plug. I run a DJ and kind of tech support business. It's called Adoptive Entertainment and Technology, a limited liability company. Phone number 216-532-3940, and email is info@adoptivedj.com, and we're on social media. But my thoughts on that is, yeah, I mean, so first, mine doesn't take up a lot of the travel and stuff right now, so we're able to work that out. That being said, the way our kids are, some trauma, some ADHD, it's very possible that conventional careers might not just work.
Yeah.
And they might, it could
Mhm.
be fine. I'm not trying to box them into something, but
Right.
if I had something I could pass on and kind of teach slowly, that would be good. Yeah, I suppose the candy making is the same way. You're already doing that with Lena, and I can say her name because she's been on the show and we said it a bunch of times.
Well, that's cool.
I was going to say, are you distracted by your phone? You of all people.
Yeah, me of all people, imagine that. Well, since I just got this in, I'm going to show you. It actually is a picture of one of my nephews in a family owned business sitting on some sugar and next to some candy equipment.
If you send me that after, I
Okay.
will.
Yeah, and you
Yep,
can put it
I'll
out
put it
there. Yeah. But back in the day, my dad had a candy business and it was called Leisa Darlyn Candies, and it was established in 1961, 1962.
Why was it called that?
It was called that because I had six brothers and just me, and I was the only girl. And so my dad named it after me. And he and my brothers built a brick building behind our house on 14th Street in Kenmore. And they built it brick by brick. And that's where they started Leisa Darlyn Candies. They would make the candy there. They would do fundraising, and they would, had ads in the paper, but mainly out of that site, they did fundraising for schools and to help people make some money.
That structure is still standing, right?
No, it got tore down.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
So we have pictures of it.
There's like a new building up there, though.
No,
I think
it's
I
a
remember.
parking
It's a
lot.
parking lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remembered that being pointed out. I didn't remember the parking
Yeah.
lot part.
But,
I'll just stop.
so, Jennifer, what made you decide that you wanted to reestablish Leisa Darlyn Candies?
Well, you see, what had happened was, um, so I was in the process of losing a job, and because culinary is my life, being in the kitchen is like therapy. So I started, practicing grandpa's nut roll recipe and just kind of, um, trying to perfect that and read his handwriting, and then I started like digging into a little bit of like the family history with the Leisa Darlyns and whatnot. And then we got a Facebook message.
Yes, we did.
Because I did some of the candies and stuff when I had Twisted Treats, but like I never dived into like the specific stuff like that Grandpa and Uncle Dan and Uncle Randy
And some
did.
of this stuff is hard to make. For instance, the peanut brittle, the nut roll. I mean, you had to tweak some of this stuff. I mean, you had the recipe, but different ovens react differently, different surfaces to spread this stuff on.
Right.
A little different. So it wasn't just a straight up copy of the recipe and you're good to go.
No, my dad would spend time and time again making the nut roll, and we'd have to taste it every time we went over and say, "What do you think about this? What do you think about the filling?" And we were always tasting the nut rolls till he got it perfected.
And I did that to you last November.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And really with the candy business, that was always the number one thing we always did. Even at the holidays, whenever there was a get together, people would bring candy and we would taste it, and we would taste other people's products and see what it was, and we would taste our own if we were making new, and it was like, taste this, well, try this, or I picked this up, what do you think of this? And we spent a lot of time tasting and testing and seeing. So
well, and then the job that I was in the process of losing, I was planning on retiring from there. Like that was my heart, that was my passion or whatever. Hindsight, God closed that door for a reason. And then we got that message. So you've talked about your other company, right? Well, anyways, so Mom owns other company and I'm in charge of it on Facebook, and we got a message asking us if her company was related to the Leisa Darlyn Candies company. And I got it. And I was like, yeah, that's the candy company, that my grandpa owned. Well, this lady had posted pictures of boxes from the original candy store that had never been folded. Um, and it was pretty cool. And she ended up only living 5 minutes from us. So I went and picked them up, and she told me that they have been sitting on her desk for about a year and a half because she picked them up in an estate sale or something that she was cleaning out. And she said they were too pretty to throw away. So she kept them and knew that, she was going to try to find the owners, and they found it.
Yep.
And these things were in great shape, and they were 60-year-old,
Here, I got the little box right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that was one of the original boxes that we used.
And that's probably one of the best 60-year-old looking boxes you'll ever see. I mean, that's, if it hadn't sat around, that's remarkable.
I'm going to end up framing it.
Yeah.
You should. You should.
And this was our original peanut butter box that we had when I was growing up. And my dad designed it, and I'm sure maybe my brother helped, but the shape of the window is actually in a peanut because it was peanut brittle that they were selling and focusing on. But what are some of your memories in the candy business that you can think about that maybe you remember with Grandpa, or
So I don't obviously the original business was closed before I was born.
Right.
But at their house on 15th Street, Grandpa would make candy in the basement. So I've helped make the peanut brittle and stuff down there and pull it and different things.
Yeah.
So it was cool to see. And then I watched Uncle Dan and Uncle Randy make candy and stuff at their places too. So it was, as a kid, you're like, oh, that's pretty cool. It's candy or whatever. At that point in my life, I didn't think anything of it, but now I'm glad I have those memories because now I can share them, with Greg and my kids. And then also I know I got some big shoes to fill between all of them. To carry on the family name and stuff.
Yeah. Well, in the candy business, it's something that, just like anything else, you eat, breathe it, and sleep it if you really want to be successful at it. So as Jennifer takes her journey, it's going to be about the legend of the candy maker, the myth, and the man. But we did bring a few of the original artifacts that were from my dad's business and the family business for the candy to share with you. But what we're going to do next is we're going to make a couple calls because we're doing this generationally. And so you guys are the third generation.
Yeah.
The third generation. So what we're going to do is talk to a couple other of the third generation members who have experienced the candy business, have worked with Grandpa, know Grandpa, and they're going to share some of their stories and questions as well. And in fact, the one I just showed you that picture, and I'll send it to Greg so he can put it up there, is from my nephew Danny. And so you want to call Danny and I'll call Tim?
Sure.
We'll put them on.
They're probably not going to hear each other all that well, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll be proven wrong.
Hello.
Hey, what's up?
How's it going?
Good. We're calling Tim on Mom's phone.
Okay.
So we're going to have...
Hello. Hello.
Hi, is your dad there?
Yeah, he's right here.
Okay. We are calling from the Greg and Leisa Show. And our topic today is about generational family businesses and legacies. And we have Danny and we have Tim on the line with us because they knew my dad. They was his grandpa, their grandpa. And so we want them to share some of their memories that they have with Grandpa, their dad, making candy, and share some of their thoughts. So Tim, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Danny, you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Can you hear each other?
So far.
Okay.
Excellent.
Okay, good. So Danny, I shared your picture that you just sent with the show, and we'll put that up there. I'll send it to Greg, and it'll be bigger. But share some of your memories with Grandpa in the candy business, and maybe something he taught you.
A lot of it was just memory from being there in Ohio, just visiting and seeing some of the things down in the basement that he used to work with, some of the old stoves and the equipment. and finding a jar full of old candy down there that we would try to eat, and it would be very uniquely flavored, and who knows how old it was, but he would start yelling and say, "Oh, don't eat that, that's old." Be like, "Well, I want to try something you made, there was lots of other stuff you made, but I just like to kind of have a nostalgia." I remember that was kind of a fun thing we did.
Yeah. So, and Tim, what do you remember?
Well, I remember it was just it was another thing Grandpa and I did to goof off and have fun and putz around.
Yeah.
It was something to do, something different, and something he loved doing, and and it kind of sparked a little passion in me, and always had a soft spot in my heart for it.
Yeah. Well, what's one thing that Grandpa taught you guys, or you would pass on to somebody else, or you have shared with somebody else about Grandpa?
Well,
good question.
Yeah, my biggest thing's not really candy related, but
That's okay.
it kind of is. He always said build up a reserve.
Yeah.
Build up reserve. He went through the depression and always hung on to stuff in case he needed it later, and he always said build up a reserve. And his other line was, as long as you got a kettle, you can make money.
Yeah. Yeah. Danny, what do you remember?
I just remember him being resourceful. Anything that he could find, he would find a way to make a buck off of it somehow.
Yeah.
He would somehow, whether it be something candy related, candy machine related, or just just junk in his garage or anything else, he would always find something, a way to turn the wheels in his head to make the money flow in somehow. He'd always find something somebody wanted or needed, or something he would come up with that somebody loved, and he would just have that passion, and that's, I think, inspired all of us.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing that they taught us is you make money with what you have, no matter what it is. Either by the fruits of your labor with your hands, or whatever you have, you can make money with it. And that was one of the things that he taught us as kids. And and that's what we kind of referenced last week, was that sometimes if you're having financial challenges, you have to make cupcakes and sell them, or cookies and sell them, or make something, or sell some assets or something that you have to try to make a buck and to do something. So he did instill that in us. So where or do you have a passion? Now, you both grew up in family-owned businesses, and we just talked a little bit about how sometimes when you grow up in a family-owned business, that some kids develop a distaste for the business and don't want anything to do with the business. Sometimes they go into their own business. Sometimes they go try other things and then they come back to the family business. So what's one of the challenges or things that you feel about growing up in a home that has a family-run business?
Who's going first?
I was going to say, you want to go first?
Well, on the way over, we had the conversation about I fired Jennifer 3 times.
She did. I'll take that to my grave. She fired me 3 times. I quit a couple times also, but I was fired a few times.
That's what stinks about being the boss sometimes, is you can't even quit.
Yeah, that's true.
You can't fire yourself. You can fire everybody and still be there and have to hold down the business and then have nobody.
That's right. So.
Which is one thing I didn't like about it, was dealing with the employees, dealing with all the legal end of it, all the taxes, all the FDA, and getting involved with later on with the health department, having the stainless steel equipment, and instead of the older stuff we're used to, and then changing everything, and that kind of got annoying, but that was understandable. It was better health, easier to clean, but there's other aspects of it. Just dealing with employees was the main reason I got out of it, and I would probably never get into it again because of that.
Yeah. Unless maybe you do it on a smaller scale or something else.
Yeah, I mean, I do it here at home just to mess around with things, and I try just playing around with old recipe books and stuff that I find laying around. But I don't know if I would ever sell it or get into that again, and maybe down the road if there's something that
Mm-hmm.
came along, but I don't know.
Yeah. So,
I'm kind of torn.
yeah. Well, Tim, what do you think?
Well, one of my biggest things about family-owned businesses is I was in it for a while, and I tried different career avenues, and then I came back in it, and my biggest thing, there is a shadow factor, where you get to being in the family business long enough that, are you as good as your parents or your grandparents? Did you build it or did they build it? Are you doing a good job or are you just barely keeping it afloat? And I've always, when I was out of the business for a while and had moved out of state, there was a sense of accomplishment for me when, I was on my own, working, building my own thing and doing whatever without, oh, you're just so and so's boy, or, you know, they built it, you run it, silver spoon in your hand. But it was never like that. It was always hard work. You had to get up. You had to deal with people. You had to deal with the projects. The equipment breaking, the maintaining of the vehicles, and all the headaches that go with it. But at the end of the day, it's still something your parents built or your grandpa built or something that always kind of lingered in the back of my head. Did I accomplish it?
Yeah.
And that's kind of always stuck with me.
But what is one of the things I always preach to you? Same thing I preach to Jennifer, and what have I always told you?
Well, you've always said, go work for somebody else.
That's exactly right.
Have that steady income, have that steady pay. But
Yep.
I've got too much entrepreneurial background and blood in me that says, well, I don't want to make him $1. I want to make me $3.
Yeah.
I totally said on the car right over here because I picked mom up. I was like, because I said, go work for somebody else or whatever. I was like, but I got too much Lisa Russell in me. I can't work for nobody else.
Yeah. Mhm. Well, what is one thing if you had your choice to go into another candy business? I mean, Tim, you made candy. Danny's made candy. What would you do differently, or would you not have tried it at all?
I might have tried it if I had a smaller operation, no employees, kept it real small, probably just one or two things. That's probably it. Like hard candy. I really like the hard candy end of it. That doesn't go bad as quick, so you can kind of figure things out with that. I don't know. I'd keep it simple.
Yeah.
Minimum number of products for sure. Maybe no more than 5. I know people get kind of excited to try different things, but hey, In-N-Out Burger here has been doing it right with just having 3 things on the menu. So
Yeah.
that's what I figure. Something like that. Simple, easy, something everybody loves. Who knows what it would be? Enter whatever that is here.
Yeah.
But
well, I'd say that's kind of how I started, Danny. I just, I'd make a few batches and make it for friends, and it was more personal. It was, hey, I make this. If you want some, I'll sell it to you. Just because you're you, But anybody else, no, I don't make candy, So to me, it's hard to get people to appreciate the handmade art side of it. If you could incorporate it into like a bakery or something, that's a specialty niche item, because I can make you a Snickers bar from scratch, and it'll be 3 times bigger and 3 times better, but you're not going to pay $15 for it. And that's, where a lot of the small business aspect of it gets lost in the manufacturing process.
Yeah. Well, that goes back to relationship building. I know, you guys, I gave you this great idea once, long time ago.
The grilled cheese?
The grilled cheese cafe, right? Now, but the whole premise behind that was to meet a need, because whenever you're in a business, you can't just have one thing. You do have to have, something else for backup. But the whole premise behind that was being small enough that people will come in and talk to you, and you develop those relationships as a neighborhood, place. But not only can they come in and get grilled cheese and fries and a drink and be able to afford to pay their family relatively inexpensively, but they could also buy lunch meats and bread that they need to take home, or maybe a little bit of milk, because it's filling a need, and it's about building the relationships. Because sometimes we talk about how many times do people call us and talk to us or brainstorm or ask us questions about our experiences, and just having that, that idea and that availability, people will stop in and, shoot the breeze. I mean, look at your uncles who go to the same place for breakfast all the time for years because they know them, And so there is a specialty niche about having something small enough that people can come in and enjoy, and they will, refer, and you'll get repeat business. So anyways, we want to thank you for joining us today.
Not a problem.
So, as you know, Jennifer's going to reestablish Leisa Darlyn Candies, and there's going to be a journey to Candyland she's going to be sharing with you. But I'm going to add you, going to give you this list to read about before you start your own business, and you guys can tell me if there's anything that I missed. Okay. So make sure you've prayed about it. Talk to your spouse about it if you have one. If there's no spouse, seek wise counsel from someone in their own business. Make a business plan. Try to start your business with the least amount of expenses as possible. Look at your target market. Look at how you are going to market your product. Pray about it some more. Do as much as you can yourself to save on labor and ask for possible volunteers. Start with a home-based business. We talked about cottage businesses in one of the episodes about starting your own business. Do a trial run on your product and get feedback and see what you are going to market, and is it going to be viable? Do people like it? Project a start date and then get started. Do you have any other advice for us? Anybody?
Don't be too serious.
Don't be too serious. I think you have to have fun. It has, when you're in your own business, you have to do something that you enjoy doing.
Right.
So you have to have a passion for it. But yeah, laughter is the best medicine, and you need to enjoy what you're doing, because you're going to do it all the time when you're in your own business.
Well, I'd add, don't be afraid to fail.
Right.
Try it.
Yeah.
I have a lot of ideas, and a lot of them don't get through the idea phase. Some of them do.
Right.
Some of them get past the idea phase into a prototype stage, and it's like, no, we gotta scratch this. This ain't gonna work.
Yeah.
So you lost a little time. You lost a little R&D money.
Yeah.
Pick yourself up, shake yourself off, and keep going.
Yeah. I always remember Hershey's filed bankruptcy 3 times before they took off.
Yeah.
And so you have to not be afraid to fail. And what Greg was shared about the WD-40.
Oh yeah, there were 39 WDs before they came out with that 40th one. That was
yeah.
That was magic.
Well,
yeah.
Same thing with the light bulb.
Right.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So, but you can't be afraid to try. But you have to, go at it wisely and make sure that you're making the right decisions. And, like I said, pray about it, because God's always going to direct you. But like you said, don't hesitate to try it, because you're not going to know until you try. So, all right.
Well, that's a pretty good list. I'd stick with it.
All right.
Yeah, sounds good.
Well, thank you for joining us tonight. We appreciate it. And
Yeah, thank you.
you can watch us on Saturdays at 11, the Greg and Leisa Show.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right. We'll talk, you guys. Take care.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. We're going to read Proverbs 31. And the reason that I picked Proverbs 31 today is because it talks about the Proverbs 31 woman, and it talks about everything basically that a woman does. And I don't know, Greg, do you want to read that?
I can read that if somebody
Okay.
brings it up.
Yeah.
The whole chapter then?
Yeah.
And they're pretty short.
Yeah.
They're in Proverbs anyway.
So.
Okay, Proverbs 31. The heading on it is Sayings of King Lemuel. The sayings of King Lemuel, an expired utterance his mother taught him. Listen, my son, son of my womb. Listen, my son, the answer to my prayers. Do not spend your strength on women, your vigor on those who ruin kings. It is not for kings, Lemuel. It is not for kings to drink wine, nor for rulers to crave beer, lest they drink and forget what has been decreed, and deprive all the oppressed of their rights. Let beer be for those who are perishing, wine for those who are in anguish. Let them drink and forget their poverty, and remember their misery no more. Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, for the rights of all who are destitute. Speak up and judge fairly. Defend the rights of the poor and needy. And then second section, little heading, epilogue, the wife of noble character. So this is more what you were getting into.
Yeah.
A wife of noble character who can find. She is worth far more than rubies. Her husband has full confidence in her and lacks nothing of value. She brings him good, not harm, all the days of her life. She selects wool and flax and works with eager hands. She is like the merchant ships, bringing her food from afar. She gets up while it is still night. She provides food for her family and portions for her female servants. She considers a field and buys it. Out of her earnings, she plants a vineyard. She sets about her work vigorously. Her arms are strong for her tasks. She sees that her trading is profitable, and her lamp does not go out at night. In her hand she holds the distaff and grasps the spindle with her fingers. She opens her arms to the poor and extends her hands to the needy. When it snows, she has no fear for her household, for all of them are clothed in scarlet. She makes coverings for her bed. She is clothed in fine linen and purple. Her husband is respected at the city gate, where he takes a seat among the elders of the land. She makes linen garments and sells them, and supplies the merchants with sashes. She is clothed with strength and dignity. She can laugh at the days to come. She speaks with wisdom, and faithful instruction is on her tongue. She watches over the affairs of her household, and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children arise and call her blessed, her husband also, and he praises her. Many women do noble things, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Honor her for all that her hands have done, and let her works bring her praise at the city gate.
So when you look at everything that the Proverbs 31 woman did, and the wife did, she worked outside the household as well as, managed the kids in the household. She bought property. She started a vineyard. She took care of her family. Those are things that, today we still do, to help take care of our family. And that when you look at it, it's a team effort, but she looks after her husband. She looks after her household. She, prospers by the fruit of her hands, and she has integrity in doing it. And that's one of the things that as you go in your own business, and especially a woman, and, as a partnership, with your husband or, someone else. You have to have integrity in business, and you have to, it takes a lot of work to get something off the ground and to reestablish something. And because you are getting ready to reestablish Leisa Darlyn Candies, you're going to have a lot of work ahead of you, and it's going to affect both of you in the business to get started.
Yep.
So,
and one of the things I just want to say about passages like that, it's easy to listen to those and see how they're all focused on women, and women have to do this, and think the Bible is some man-centric thing. There's many passages that are tough on men as well. So
oh yes,
just you got to
Right.
consider the whole book sometimes.
Right. Yeah, you do. And there's passages in the Bible that says we do prosper by the
Yeah.
fruit of our hands,
Yep.
and that applies to everybody.
And honestly, with that too, the ancient
Mhm.
world was just a little different. I mean,
Yeah.
some of the principles are still the same, but they had a
Right.
very different world to live in than we do.
Right, but sometimes we think, there was a period in time where the woman didn't work outside the house. She just stayed home and took care of the kids.
No, and
Yeah.
the origin there is
Yeah.
she did.
Right, she did, and that's why when we look at the Bible as a living the Word of God, and so there's more, women did more than just stay home and take care of the kids.
Mhm.
And that's, again, is what's happening today, because, you have a lot of single parent households, but, you're always looking to do something to make ends meet. And it's like, Danny said, when you bring up your family and you teach them those, I don't want to say goals, but the ability to do things like that, you do become less stressed because you think you can always make a buck somehow. And you don't get, so stressed
Right.
like we talked about last week with the financial challenges.
Right. And also, if candy doesn't work out, if that legacy
Mhm.
doesn't pass, that skill, that
Mhm.
spirit of being able to do something is
Right. You can do
as
something
important,
else.
yeah.
Right. Yeah. And it's like, and it's like Tim said, try to, don't be afraid to fail. We're all going to fail at something. We're all going to, try again. And there's that song, I get knocked down.
Yeah, but
I get up again.
It's the truth though, because so many of these things are so hard to project unless you do it.
Mhm.
You can say something to somebody and say it
Mhm.
sounds like a crazy idea, and that could be the next big thing. And
Right.
how many next big things
Right.
were crazy ideas? I mean,
Right.
people
Yeah.
would have if we described the internet today to people in 80s or before, like, what? I wouldn't want to do that.
Mhm. Yeah.
No.
Right.
And honestly, sometimes today I'm starting to go back, no, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it would have been a crazy idea to people.
Right.
And it's here and everywhere. So,
Right.
and there's lots of other examples.
Right. That's true. So watch out for Jennifer. Just follow her on Instagram. She's going to give you all the information on where to find her on her journey to Candyland.
Yeah. So over on Instagram, you can follow me at Leisa Darlyn Candies. You'll already see some pictures of family heirlooms, some practicing some things. But you're also going to end up seeing more in-depth interviews with my cousins and brothers and my uncles and other folks who knew about the original Leisa Darlyn Candies. So I'm really taking this deep dive into my candy family tree, as I've been calling it.
Yeah.
Because so far from the original Leisa Darlyn Candies, I've found out there's about 8 other candy companies within the family built off of that one idea from Grandpa.
Mhm.
So come on over, join the journey.
Right. Yeah, and watch the videos and see where she takes you and establishes the history on where it all came from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You might even see this one on a few of those videos.
Yeah.
She meant this one, not this one.
But anyways, I think that about wraps us up for today on the Greg and Leisa Show, and generational family businesses and legacies. And it'll be interesting to see Leisa Darlyn Candies reestablished.
That'll be great. We'll see you next week. And just so we cover it, you pour chocolate in this thing and a rabbit comes out. It's wonderful. See you next week.
Rainbow colors swirl so sweet. Every taste a brand new beat. In this world so carefree, candy dreams for you and me. bubblegum skies.